Update, entitled Sister-in-Law Wants Custody of My Baby. Original post. Background, me 36 female, sister-in-law 40 female. I've been married to her brother for over 10 years, and there's always been some jealousy and resentment from her. She always felt like he had a life she wanted. Not necessarily with her brother, but the marriage, family, job stability, etc. I have 3 kids, 10 female, 8 male, and 3-month-old baby girl. She got married last year, and they decided to start trying for a baby. But she was unfortunately told that she can't have children naturally. She was understandably devastated, and the family comforted her as best as we could. We recently had a family dinner, and in the middle of it, she says, "OP, I think it's really unfair that you got to have 3 kids and I can't have any. Your baby is my last chance to raise a child, so I think you should give her to me during the week so I can create a motherly bond with her, and you can have her on weekends." Before I could respond, the entire table erupted with everyone talking at once, so I took my older kids upstairs. When I got back to the dining room, her husband was asking what the hell is wrong with her, and why would she even think to ask that? She was trying to justify herself when I asked them to leave. I also said that she's no longer welcomed at my house or around my children until she gets help. She started screaming that I don't deserve my life or my children, and that I stole her baby from her. Her husband and mother-in-law kept apologizing and dragged her out of the house still crying and screaming. Now my kids want to know why their aunt wants to take the baby. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Jesus, stay safe. At least the rest of the family recognize her craziness. I had the same thought. Usually in stories like this, the family backs the crazy one because they are the golden child, etc. It's because the sister-in-law showed her butt, and OP has the actual grandkids. I don't know, my family would not support me if I pulled that with my sister-in-law. I think most normal people would be horrified. I don't think it's just because OP has the grandkids. I hope that my family would support a family member like that, in a sense that I hope we would all be very clear with, you need help urgently and we're all going to support you if you get psychiatric help. Also, don't come close to the kids anytime soon. But then again, we are a tight-knit family for the most part, and if one of my loved ones went off the rails like that, I'd be very worried. Tough love all the way, but also try to get them help. But definitely back OP in the situation and remove sister-in-law from the house. Basically support OP, but also maybe not instant drop your daughter/wife if your husband/mother-in-law. And instead, talk to her into getting help. If she refuses help, then it's a different story. If she ever goes to daycare, make sure they know she is not allowed to pick up your daughter. I would also contact the school your other children attend just in case. She sounds unhinged. Yes, the entire family agrees she needs help, but still be careful, because you never know what she might do. If you don't already have one, get a video doorbell. She's not on any of the pickup lists, but I'll take the advice and let the school and daycare know that she isn't to be in contact with my kids. Give them recent photos of sister-in-law so they know what she looks like. Edit. I've been reading the comments, but it's too many to reply to, so here are a few points. 1. We have a security system and cameras already installed and no one has keys to our house. 2. I will not be able to get a restraining order, as this one incident isn't enough to justify it. 3. My husband and I spoke to the older kids about it the same night, and we'll be having another talk with them to reinforce that sister-in-law is not a safe person anymore. 4. Our country does not have the right to bear arms, and I also have no interest in getting a firearm. 5. I'll be informing the school and daycare of the issue and giving them her photo. Now for the update. So my sister-in-law has been admitted to a psychiatric facility. In the comments of my previous post, I mentioned that her husband was seeking out counseling for them to deal with infertility prior to this incident. After the incident, he sought out a psychiatrist rather than a counselor, and they had their first session last week. I didn't get the specifics of what happened, but basically she made some statements that the psychiatrist felt indicated she was a danger to others, my baby and me, and she was placed under an involuntary hold. My brother-in-law has been nothing but apologetic through this entire ordeal, and he kept her away from us since the incident. Mother-in-law was staying with them to keep an eye on sister-in-law. She tried to leave the house in the middle of the night to see her baby. Also, brother-in-law found her researching how to induce lactation, and she said it was to make sure she can feed a baby properly when I come to my senses and give her up. From what brother-in-law has said, seeing me breastfeed is apparently what triggered the entire episode. It was the first time sister-in-law was around a baby for any length of time, and she was holding her when she got fuzzy because she was hungry. Naturally, it took her to feed her, and this made sister-in-law feel inadequate because it triggered a thought that she would never be able to do that, which led to the events of the last post. I'm grateful for all the advice that was offered on my last post, as some of it was really helpful. We won't be moving, as is not feasible for us at the moment, but we have taken extra steps with security, both at home and a kid's school/daycare. This whole thing is taking a toll on the family, but mother-in-law, father-in-law, and brother-in-law are taking care of sister-in-law. And my husband and I are focused on ensuring the safety of our immediate family and minimizing the effect on the kids as much as we can. I'm glad your family took the initiative and got the help and the treatment your sister-in-law needs. And it's a good thing the entire family was keeping an eye on her. Otherwise, this would have been a different update. Unfortunately, it's going to be a while before sister-in-law is well enough to go out into society. Continue to keep your family safe. I'm sorry this happened to you and your children. I sadly know people with these kind of delusions, and I can tell you they don't let them out easily. And if they do, they need to be tracked and watched. I've also heard they can get some sort of house arrest. I just pray OP's family are safe and sister-in-law is taken care of. I'm actually wowed at sister-in-law's husband for not dumping her and actually helping keep her away from OP and getting sister-in-law the help she needs. The folks did the right thing protecting your kids, and your family did the right thing getting sister-in-law help. Sometimes reality is just too much for a mind to bear. Your sister-in-law had a psychotic break and will likely be unwell for a long time. Even after she is on a successful medication regimen, she shouldn't have access to you or the kids. One missed med or one trigger can initiate a relapse. I'd also point out, I used the word initiate rather than cause. You breastfeeding your baby did not cause this. It may have initiated the initial break, but it did not cause this. You were not at fault. It's kind of heartbreaking and sad. Hope she gets well soon, but you need to keep your family safe. I really do hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but please remain vigilant, OP. In North America at least, our system is so overloaded that people who need to be held longer are often released because there just isn't the space/resources. I hope your family has resources to make sure your sister gets the help she needs though, or to remove the niceties and double talk. I hear rich people can set up their relatives in fancy places where they need to be for their mental health. I hope your brother-in-law has the means to do this, for everyone's sake. A 3-day hold is only to start meds. Then they release you. You get no real help, so hopefully your family's vigilant. If she's still a danger to herself or others, they may not release her. I tried to unalive myself and was held for well over 90 days. I spent 30 days in hospital until I could be placed in a proper facility, then an additional 60+ days, which included a stint in physical rehab for the reason I tried to end it, before being placed in a step-down rehab facility. That included intensive mental health assistance, plus meds, until they were assured I was safe. Thank goodness we have a good health insurance. It didn't cost us anything beyond an inpatient confinement fee, which was a fraction of the entire cost. It's been just about 8 years now and the new meds work, so self-ending idea, my intrusive thoughts about self-harm make me recoil in horror and shove them away, just like I should. I'm doing incredibly well now, and things have been especially good lately. Just pointing out that if you are a danger after 3 days, you can and will be held. At least in my state. Your mileage may vary by state and country of residence, as well as availability of services. Next story. Entitled Brother-in-Law with Peter Pan Syndrome. It's long, so too long didn't read. Brother-in-law quit his well-paying job to pursue his dream career. Years later, he is acting like the entire family is responsible for taking care of him and treating his mother poorly for not doing a good enough job. Before I get going, I just want to say I like to think we are good hosts. When we have visitors, we love hosting and always provide snacks, meals, drinks, toiletries, etc. We love having friends and family visit and try to buy things that will make their stay super comfortable. My brother-in-law quit his well-paying job a few years ago to pursue something new and exciting. We were all happy for him, but didn't realize he'd expect us to essentially carry him for years to come. We are all in our 30s for context. Upon starting his new career, brother-in-law didn't renew his lease due to financial reasons. Initially, he kept asking to stay at our apartment, which was a 1,000 square foot 2-bed, 2-bath. My husband and I agreed to a 2-week limit for stays. Then we changed it to a 1-week limit after a while because it was too much. Too little space, too little alone time, too much unpredictability. He would go out at night and not come home, or come home in the middle of the night and wake us up, or leave after we went to sleep but forget to lock the door. This dynamic just wasn't healthy for us. Due to the frequency and length of visits, we told brother-in-law that if he plans to stay with us, he needs to buy his own food. He agreed, but then wouldn't buy an adequate amount of food and would ask for our leftovers or access to the food in the pantry and fridge that was due to expire soon. It seemed fine at first. He was kind of like a human garbage disposal. But it got old quick when he started asking to eat non-perishables, and at this point was not contributing to groceries in any way. It's hard to say no to someone, especially your family, when they're literally asking for food because they are hungry. But he eats a lot, and while we are comfortable, we have a budget that we try to stick to, and feeding an extra person is a lot. On top of that, he never did dishes or cleaned up after himself, even causing a mess. So even him eating things that were potentially going to go to waste ended up being more work for us. After going along with this for longer than I'd cared to admit, we started telling him no to our food entirely. Then he started watching us eat dinner and asking to finish off the food in our plates that wouldn't finish, since that wouldn't be going into meal prep containers and would be going into trash. I let him do this, but it felt bizarre and invasive and made me feel inhumane. I was exhausted because I felt like a horrible person. I felt like we should just let him eat with us at this point. In retrospect, he should have been respectful of our boundaries, but at the time, it was such an unusual experience for me. I just couldn't figure it out. My husband and I had a conversation about it and put an end to the visits entirely. He ended up signing a lease somewhere, so now it's been a year or two since this was an issue. I had honestly forgotten about how frustrating it all was until this weekend. Now that the lease he's signed is up, he's staying with my mother-in-law, his mom. Mother-in-law and brother-in-law visited this weekend because it was brother-in-law's birthday and we live in a city where all his friends live. When they arrived, brother-in-law complained for about an hour about the free accommodations at mother-in-law's. This was all in front of her, and I could tell it was hurting her feelings. She just bought a new house and was excited to talk about it with me. But every time she'd share something about it, he'd offer a counterpoint as to why it was terrible. My husband and I tried to change the subject. We all started discussing the drive up, where did they stop to eat, what did they listen to, etc. Just trying to move on. Brother-in-law then complains that mother-in-law, who drove him 5+ hours to get here because he doesn't have a car, was trying to talk to him too much on the ride up. I say, well, when you're tired and driving long distance, it's nice to have someone to talk to. My husband adds that he understands because he also just likes to relax in the car. But that whenever I'm driving, he likes to make sure that I'm happy. And when he's driving, we get to do what he wants. Brother-in-law says that none of us understand the stress he's under. Spoiler alert, we all work stressful full-time jobs. And that all he does all day is answer questions, and he's tired of it. Spoiler alert again, every functioning adult also has this issue. So apparently for the car ride, brother-in-law watched television on his cell phone with the volume on the entire time while his mother drove. This weekend went by fine-ish after the first night. Brother-in-law invited several friends over to our house, which I wasn't thrilled about because our new house is still pretty small. They were nice though. We asked brother-in-law to pick up drinks if he was bringing friends over, as we weren't prepared for so many people, which he did not. Mother-in-law expressed frustration to my husband and me about brother-in-law not contributing to groceries, not being clean, etc., but I think she was trying to keep things cool, as it was his birthday. When it was time to leave, brother-in-law made mother-in-law wait an extra hour so he could finish his TV show. Then he asked her to help him pack his suitcase. Then he insulted her car. I had a conversation with my husband about it. It's not my family, so not my place to say anything to mother-in-law. But holy cow, what a weekend. It's brought up all my previous feelings, and I hate that my mother-in-law's dealing with this. I feel like the entitlement is just beyond anything I've ever experienced. My husband is already working on how he's going to address it, so I don't want to beat a dead horse with him. Just needed to vent a little more than I already did. Mother-in-law needs to stop enabling him. 100%, and she's not a pushover, so I'm surprised she let it get this far. I should have mentioned she is making him leave at the end of the month. Good for her, and do not let him even stay a night at your home. Yeah, I was just rage venting and forgot to mention that. My husband understandably loves his brother, so I have to be delicate with my anger. I would be so upset if roles were reversed, even if his complaints were true. We all have blind spots for our family. I'm glad he at least sees it too. I can relate. My brother-in-law treats my amazing mother-in-law horribly, and it is so frustrating. Right, I know not everyone has good parents, but I also know he does. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized how valuable our time is with our parents. Mother-in-law apparently created this monster. She needs to deal with it. I mentioned in another comment that I forgot to say she's kicking him out at the end of the month. So that's good. Update. My 26 female fiancé is convinced I have a crush on my friend's husband. Original post. My best friend Sarah, 26 female, and her husband Matt, 28 male, have put me in a very difficult position with my fiancé Jack, 30 male. I knew Matt since my childhood. He was my neighbor and we were friendly. Sarah and I were roommates in college and became close friends. When I introduced Sarah and Matt, they hit it off and started dating each other. I was happy to see two of my friends get together, but also annoyed that I became the third wheel, and I was often ignored or set aside because they were so into each other. By the time I graduated, Matt had completely dropped me as a friend. That saddened me, but I was still good friends with Sarah, so it was what it was. Sarah and I would frequently hang out, but I never talked with Matt other than the occasional polite hellos. Sarah would sometimes try to do couples dates with her and Matt would meet my dates. And I found that Matt had developed an unpleasant personality and would frequently be rude and condescending towards me. However, he's a very devoted and loving husband to Sarah, so for her sake, I ignored him. When my fiancé and I got engaged, we had no plans to do a party. Sarah was disappointed that we didn't throw an engagement party, so she organized a small get-together at her home to celebrate us. The party was nice, and as things were winding down, my fiancé and I went to thank Sarah and Matt for their sweet gesture before we took our leave. Matt was pretty tipsy by then, and out of nowhere he suddenly hugged me, and in front of my fiancé said that he was so glad that I was finally settling down, that he is relieved that now I'll be over the crush I had on him. I was shocked and told him that wasn't true. He just laughed and told Jack that I was always chasing him, and he had to work hard to keep me away. I dragged Sarah in and asked her to please fix this mess, and she was all like, "Oh, he's drunk. Ignore him," and says, "You know I always trust you. I know you wouldn't act on your crush." Jack was pretty angry by this point, and he walked out. I ran after him and tried explaining that this isn't true, but he told me he doesn't want to be anyone's second choice or their backup plan. Since that night, he isn't talking to me or returning my calls. I have talked to Sarah multiple times to clear things with Jack, but she's brushing me off. I don't understand why they believe this or why she'd stay friends with me if she thought I was into her husband. I was in her wedding party and did all the work because her sister, who was the maid of honor, was too busy. I have helped her through her pregnancy and have babysat her kids so many times. She never gave me any indication she thought this. And why would she want me close to her family if she believed this? I feel humiliated that these people think I was pining away for a jerk like Matt. I need help in convincing Jack that this isn't true. I am also mad at him for throwing away our relationship over what some drunken idiot said. I don't know what I'm going to do about my friendship with Sarah. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Sarah thinks it's true too. She was confident in her relationship and didn't see it as an issue, but I'm pretty sure she thought it as well. That's why she's brushing you off, because she agrees with him. For Matt to mess up your relationship that relieves him of the responsibility of thinking you have a crush on him is irony of the highest level. He's a prick to say that in front of Jack. Point out to her that her husband messed up your relationship, and you expect them to do something about it or you're through with them. I have no idea how to heal this with Jack. He likely won't listen unless he comes to his senses when he comes down. The issue is whether he'll communicate with you at all. But if he does, go full guns to how ridiculous it is that you got them together and would have never done that if you were after him yourself. Meanwhile, drop all contact with Sarah and Matt. They're just messing with your life, and they sound pretty smug and nasty to me. It sounds to me like Sarah thought it first, and when she told Matt he felt uncomfortable and that is why his behavior towards her changed all those years ago. And send a message to both Sarah and Matt saying how disappointed you are in them both, and that they have caused problems by saying something that isn't true. And then I'd screenshot it and send it to Jack. Then give him some space to process. Block Sarah and Matt. Good luck, OP. I think it's more what Sarah said that set Jack off. Friends usually know each other's secrets, so Sarah co-signing what Matt said holds more weight than if she had disagreed. Also, it's possible that Matt has made slick comments like this to Jack behind your back. Yes, I think this is right. I am trying to get Sarah to talk to Jack and deny this, but she's not doing that. I don't understand why she won't do this for me. Matt has probably lied to Sarah the same way he lied to Jack. Unless you can get Matt to confess, the best you can do is sit Sarah and Jack down. Make it clear you're committed to Jack, loyal to Sarah, and have zero feelings for Matt. Sarah and Matt are people you do not want in your life. If your fiancé is this insecure, I suggest you take a step back. Send him his ring and tell him that you will wait until he decides to believe the woman he claims to love. He also seems like a jerk by refusing to communicate. I do not see a great marriage if this is how he resolves conflict. I am quite desperate to not lose Jack, but I am also angry about his actions here. Don't care about Matt, but Sarah's lack of care is heartbreaking to me. First update. I talked to Sarah again and asked her first of all why she'd think I had a crush on Matt. She said that when I first introduced them, I had talked up Matt and gushed about him, and she took that as me being into him. I said I was fond of him since I've known him for a long time, but that doesn't mean I want to be with him. She said when they started dating, I was often upset about it. I said I wasn't upset about their dating. I was upset that she'd make plans with me and then leave me to be with him. And when we were all together, I didn't enjoy being the third wheel while they ignored me. That had nothing to do with wanting him and more to not liking being left out of my best friend. I asked her why she hadn't said anything before, and she explained that she could manage the situation. She had asked Matt to stop talking to me completely, and she engineered situations so there was little chance of us socializing with each other. I asked her now that I have explained that I never had a crush on Matt. Can you please talk to Jack and tell him? She said she didn't want to lie. This frustrated me immensely. She could ignore this imaginary crush for years and manipulate me, but won't talk to my fiancé to help my relationship. I told her I was done being her friend. Thinking back, I was always doing stuff for her and she used me but did little for me. Now for the second update. I wrote a long letter to Jack explaining the entire history of my relationship with Sarah and Matt with the recent screen caps. I asserted as best as I could that I had never pined after any guy, and I loved him and he was my only choice. After days of silence, Jack agreed to talk to me. We met and he said that he sees two ways of interpreting the situation. 1. Matt and Sarah are right and he doesn't want to be my second choice. 2. They are malicious people who are messing with me and that shows very poor judgment on my part that I'd have a best friend like this, and he doesn't want that quality in a life partner. Either possibility leads to the same conclusion, that he wants to call off the engagement. He reminded me that I had represented Sarah as one of the most important people in my life, that I'd jump up and help her all the time. I had once canceled plans with him to take care of her kid when the baby was sick. It had irked him, but he had seen it as me being caring and nice, but now he's seeing all that in a different light. I cried and begged him to not end our engagement, but he wanted a break for a while. I thought over what he said for a few days, and came to realize that he was right. I was a clingy friend and a doormat. I never even saw how much one-sided my friendship with Sarah was. I was a doormat with Jack too. I didn't want to get married or have kids this early, but agreed to his timelines. I gave up exciting job opportunity with more money because he didn't want me traveling for work. I love him, but I need to fix myself and be stronger. I gave back his ring and ended things. I returned all the gifts he gave too. He was offended by that, but I didn't feel good about keeping the very expensive things he had given me. He makes a lot more than me and was very generous with what he gave me, but I can't keep that now. Sarah was quiet for a while, but then started calling me. I ignored a lot of her calls. But this morning I answered her call and told her about a breakup. I was looking for sympathy from my old friend, but she was more interested in knowing if I was still going to watch her kid while she and Matt went on an overnight trip. She got pretty angry when I said no. I have blocked her now. I've lost my fiancé, my best friend, and my relationship with my nephew whom I adored, all in one go. But still, I am thankful for the comments that showed this wasn't something I could fix and helped me rip off the band-aid and walk away from this mess. Damn, Sarah's such an awful person. People are also glossing over the fact that apparently Sarah thought Opie had a huge crush on Matt before she and Matt had even met. So from Sarah's point of view, her bestie gushes about some guy she's known for ages and has a crush on. Sarah then continues to date the guy her friend is crushing on, and then purposefully destroys their decade-long friendship because she's uncomfortable with Opie's crush. Maybe if you can't handle your friend having a crush on your partner, don't pursue someone you know your friend has a crush on. This is Friendship 101. Don't go after the guys/girls that your friends like. If you do decide to do so, then don't have the nerve to then get upset about it as if it's anyone's fault but your own. What's the odds Sarah's marriage breaks down soon after she actually realizes that Opie was never into Matt, and she didn't win anything by getting with him? I can't set odds well, but I do consider myself a betting person from time to time, and I'd bet that what you're thinking is right along the lines of what I'm thinking. How much of the friendship between Opie and Sarah was ever actually a real friendship, even from the start? Because it kinda sounds like Sarah gets off on the idea of having her best friend's crush as her own, so to speak, and lording that information over everyone. Even ignoring all the backstory, imagine telling your best friend, "My fiancé and I broke up. Sorry I can't watch your kid right now," and them getting angry about it. Add in the "we broke up because of you," and that makes it 100 times worse. It's all fun and games until you lose your free babysitter. Yep. My best friend shat on me completely and I finally snapped and said no babysitting, and never spoke to her again. It was a huge weight off my shoulders though. Poor Opie. I've seen it before, but if you act like a doormat person, then you find yourself with people willing to take advantage of you. I hope she can work on herself and stand up for herself in the future. Hopefully without developing major trust issues too. This kind of situation can really mess with people. My ex-best friend who slept with my ex-girlfriend 3 years ago has gotten into contact with me. Hi. Firstly, sorry this is my first time ever coming here about something, so I hope this gets somewhere. I'm 21 male and my ex-girlfriend 22 female now. We dated back in high school and we were a pretty solid relationship. Well, so I thought. I got kicked out of my mom's house pretty early into the relationship with her, and so I moved in with her and her family. We made it work terrifically. We would wake up, make lunch together, come home, make dinner, then watch a movie. We were always affectionate and intimate with one another. Fast forward 3 years into the relationship. I started hanging out with my best friend at a time, 23 male, for weeks on end, because me and my girlfriend were having problems communicating and being at home together, so I would stay at his. My ex-girlfriend asked to come stay over one night with us at his house, and we were more than okay with that. And when she came over, we all hung out as normal and everything. 2 weeks down the track, me and her both are pretty much staying at my best friend's house every day by this point, because we threw parties and everything. And they would go running off together somewhere when I'd be drunk and asleep in another room. I would catch them out a couple times for acting weird or being quiet the minute I came in the room. One night after my 18th, we threw a small get-together at my best friend's house for myself and to celebrate, and kind of get over the fact that my girlfriend broke up with me 8 hours after my 18th. And about 6 hours before this party, she came to the get-together and everyone who was invited stayed in a room with him and my ex-girlfriend while I was sitting outside drinking by myself. This night, both my best friend and my now ex-girlfriend asked me if they could have a night alone away from me and all the drama that had been going down. I didn't say no and agreed. That night, I drove past his house only to find her car there in his carport. Mind you, her best friend lived 2 minutes down the road and she chose to go see mine. It's pretty obvious what was going on, but my best friend got in contact with me a couple days ago and we spoke yesterday about everything they did behind my back. It went as far as my ex telling him that she loved him. Back then when it was all happening, I never got the answers I wanted, but now I have them and I don't know what to do. I miss the friendship we had and how close we were. I want to be his friend, but I'm also afraid of what all my friends now would think, as none of them like him for what he did to me. Should I just move on now that I have my answers, or do I become a friend? I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Now for the advice. Me personally, I wouldn't have a friendship with someone like that. They were being sneaky behind your back. Snake in the grass in my opinion. Yeah, that comes to my mind a lot, and I do forgive a lot too. You don't need a snake as a friend. You can forgive as it's healthy, but don't forget. Thank you. Could you really trust that guy again? I don't think so. Not completely anyway, and definitely don't think I'd be able to trust him to even be near or know what a future partner looks like. Why would you invite that dishonesty back into your life? He had a chance to be a good friend when you needed it and valued access to your ex more. He is not to be trusted. In life, you need to rely on others, and you need to have trust. It is too precious to waste on crap heads. I never seen it as inviting dishonesty, because he's the one that contacted me and wanted to talk about what happened and give me answers. I can completely see where you're coming from and I completely agree. He had his chance and valued her more. It's all just bringing back a lot. Are they still together? If so, you're going to have to deal with her. No, she's currently dating someone else I know and has been for about 2.5 years now, maybe 3. It was about a month after me and her initially broke up that her and my best friend weren't in contact anymore. So they just hooked up to mess with you? Forget about this guy. You seem to be an emotionally vulnerable person. You became friends with him very quickly, and you're thinking of forgiving him. This is a great opportunity for people with no honor like him. Don't put yourself in that position of an easy prey. Be hard on those who are hard on you and be gentle with those who are gentle with you. The someone else you know wasn't another ex-friend, was it? Update. I kicked my adopted son out of my house. I think I will just cut my losses. Original post. I, 39 male, married my wife, 39 female, 16 years ago. She had a 2-year-old. The father unknown. I adopted him and he is the star in my world. I would do anything for him. He always knew he is not biologically mine. When he was 15, he started acting strange towards me. He was colder and acting out towards me. I thought it was just teenage phase, but then I found out that my wife told him who his bio father is. He even met him a couple of times. I was angry at my wife. She lied to me and then told him behind my back. The trust was gone and I filed for divorce. She moved out and my son stayed. He started hanging out with his bio father more and more and he didn't want to do anything with me. I suggested therapy, but he turned that down. Come today, my family organized a late graduation party for my son last Saturday. My ex and her family were invited too. When the day came, he just didn't come. I was angry. Then my niece showed me on Instagram another party that my ex's family organized. They were all there, including bio dad and his family. My heart broke and my family consoled me all day. I had enough. Next day, when my son got up, I called him to the kitchen and told him I'm done. I told him to pack his bags and get out. He was freaking out, begged to stay, but I stood my ground. He moved to my ex's parents. I got a lot of calls from my ex, her family and bio dad about how devastated he is. Now I feel bad. I still love him, but my heart is broken by his rejection. Today, he and my ex came to my house to talk. He apologized profusely and repeated over and over again that he loves me. I told him how hurt I am about how he treated me last 3 years. I was basically an ATM to him, and it hurt a lot. Then I asked them to walk me through how it all started with bio dad. My ex immediately responded that this is not my business anymore. I said okay, and asked them to leave. My son cried and told me that he needs money for college. I was supposed to pay for everything. I told him that I lost all the trust and feel that they want to use me one last time, and when college is over, they will drop me forever. I said that I must think things through and will let them know how I want to continue this relationship, if at all. They left. I think I want to cut my losses and try to heal. But I still love him very much, and I know I'm jeopardizing his future. I cried all my tears out, and I feel like a horrible person. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Wow, rough situation all around. I could forgive a 15-year-old for having conflicting and complex emotions here and obviously struggling with how to handle them. Seems that your ex played a big part in these issues too. From introducing him to his bio dad behind your back to scheduling a graduation party for him on the same day that you and your family had. I feel for the kid. Sounds like his mom has done a lot to mess with his emotions. But he lost me at my son cried and told me that he needs money for college. Seems like if having you in his life was that important, he wouldn't have brought up the money so quickly. He can take out loans like everyone else. And if he truly wants you in his life, he can continue making that attempt. If one day you feel like the relationship has been mended, you're even free to help pay off his loans if you like. But it shouldn't be about the money. You shouldn't need to buy his affection. It sounds like he's more upset about the college money than he is about losing his relationship, what little there was left, with you. You're not a horrible person, and I don't think you should pay for his college. The kid reminds me of my half-brother. My dad had enough of his behavior and sent him to live with his mom. Then something like this happened to him and essentially thought my dad was his ATM. Now he's near 40 and still seems to think that my dad is his meal ticket. Dad went no contact with him, and I'm happy I don't need to hear his manipulative nonsense again. I think my dad and his mom should start thinking about how they will be paying for his college. How convenient for her to pick and choose what is and isn't your business. Truly convenient. I don't normally comment on posts, but this really angers me. In my opinion, she's the real a-hole here. I bet she's done a lot to alienate her son's relationship with his stepdad to his detriment. Poor kid. Now for the update. I met with my son only 3 days after my last post. I I wanted to have a conversation with just him. I asked him what's going on, and what he told me completely broke me. He told me he met his bio father even before he was 15. About 5 years before. He went regularly with her mother, and he really liked him. When he turned 15, they told him he was his bio dad. They also asked him to not tell me. He was so happy that he knows his bio dad that he had no problems to do as they asked him. Sometime later, they then told him that they are in a relationship for some time now and that they love each other. My ex intended to divorce me, but it was not the right time to do so yet, because she was not financially ready yet. He saw how happy she was with him, so he approved of this. But then I found out about his bio dad. He was angry at me for divorcing his mother because she was not ready yet. He only stayed with me because I was closer to school and friends. I was more financially stable too and would pay for his college. And my ex approved this. I was not surprised, but still I was stunned with his info. I asked him how he sees us moving forward, and this is where a big bombshell came. He told me his dad will take a loan to pay for his college. I showed him that my love is conditional and he doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. That his dad and mom are getting married and he will be dad's best man. He intends to change his last name to his dad's. I was crying by this point and told him I will respect his wishes. He left. Forever. My life is at absolute low point right now. My family's devastated, but they are really there for me. I'm very grateful to them. I am very depressed and consuming way too much alcohol. I know it's not smart and intend to stop. It will take a long time to recover and I'm searching for a therapist. That's the update. I hope I will be able to move on and living my life again. Thanks everyone for your support. I really appreciate it. I don't care what anybody says, but you were betrayed both by your ex and her son. Him being young is not excusable for his despicable behavior. He was also taking advantage of Opie's weakness for him and was only after his money. Opie did the right thing to remove the cancer out of his life. Opie taught his son a very valuable life lesson that he would never learn at school or colleges. That in life, you make choices. And with every choice, it would lead down a different path. And each path have consequences. And you have to face those consequences. Adopted son chose his bio dad over his adopted father and was rightfully shown the door. And on top of all that, let's mention that Opie's wife was having an affair with bio dad for years during their marriage. And the son knew too. Holy hell. Opie wasn't just betrayed. He was being used the entire time. He was nothing but a tool of convenience for both of them. Right. I've been teaching my nephews that over and over again. Pretty much is the same lesson I will teach to my child when the day comes as well. We all have choices, and we sometimes know what the outcome will be, including the consequences of the said choice later on. Everything has pros and cons, and you just have to be ready for both. Son just made a choice, and it seems him and the ex-wife wasn't ready for the consequences, which is Opie eventually cutting them off well before they can use him for financial gain. 16 years is no joke, but you gotta do what you need to do. And, well, that's what Opie did. I honestly blame the mom here. The deception and using the child as a pawn in this larger game is pretty messed up behavior. Nah, that son was horrible from the very beginning. It wasn't just his mom. That kid kept that secret for almost a majority of his life and knew his adopted dad was getting cheated on. He never cared for this man at all. Screw that kid, that mom and everyone in that family. I wish nothing but the worst for them. It wasn't that you taught him that your love is conditional. Is that you taught him that actions have consequences and he just doesn't like being held accountable for his role in this situation. Next story. In the middle of my wedding planning, I managed to alienate both my adoptive and bio family. I am now all alone and I am crushed. Original post. I, 27 male, was adopted when I was 1 year old. My adoptive parents had 2 more bio kids, 23 male and 21 female. I never felt I was fully part of the family. I think my siblings always gotten more and better gifts than me, and more affection. I complained to my parents, but they always said they loved me equally. But that never made me feel better. I feel like I was a nephew, if you know what I mean. When I was 23, I decided to search for my bio parents. When I found them, they explained to me that they were too young, 16 and 17, to take care of me, so they gave up. They never had another child. We clicked instantly, and I felt very accepted. Even bio extended family are very loving, nice people. I started going to events and holidays with them, and I love them very much. My adoptive parents always complain that I don't want to spend any time with them, but I think that they got 23 years of me, and it's nice that I give my bio family some time too, as we missed so much. I will get married next year. Me and my fiancé discussed sitting for our families, and I expressed my desire to have my bio mom and dad by my side. She told me to discuss this with my adoptive parents as she doesn't want any drama at the wedding. So I did. My family totally flipped out. My mom had a breakdown about how I replaced them when they did so much for me. My siblings cussed me out, and my dad just sat and cried. I was very upset and told them that I was never accepted in this family like I was in my bio family, and that my decision is final. Mom demanded that they sit by me or they will not come. I said no problem. They are disinvited then, and I stormed out. All adoptive families on me right now. How I'm cruel and horrible son I am. My fiancé told me that I should reconsider because they did erase me and make me the person I am today. I don't know. I still love them, but they hurt me a lot. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Info, can you provide specific examples about this unequal treatment you talk about growing up? Like your siblings getting better gifts, can you give an example? Because if your adoptive parents actually treated you as less than their biological kids, that's pretty significant. But it's definitely possible that they treated you equally and you just internalized a lot of these feelings. And if so, then I could easily understand your adoptive parents feeling bad that after raising you for all these years, they would get pushed aside by the biological parents you only met a few years ago. So ultimately, the specifics matter a lot. In a comment, he mentions bio families paying for his honeymoon, which seems kinda suspect. You're the a-hole. In this case, you haven't actually given any evidence to show that you were treated badly. By all accounts, you weren't. You were just in your feelings. You refer to them as adoptive parents and not your actual parents who raised you. They spent blood, sweat, and tears for almost 23 years. They considered you their kid. And just because you were in your feels, you opted to try and replace them with people who, if I'm not mistaken, never once tried to reach out to you in your 23 years of life. Think about it. Yes, they were young, but have you ever questioned why they never tried to find or get in contact with you? Maybe they have, but it doesn't seem like it. It's your wedding to do what you want. However, you've definitely disrespected your parents, the people that raised you even though they aren't related to you by blood. You still have a lot of growing up to do. Right? Doesn't every kid pretty much feel like their siblings was favored? The lack of actual examples stands out. Pretty much. You see bio siblings post on Reddit all the time about the other one being the golden child. But wow, OP, that's a huge slap to the family that raised you for 23 years. It's easy to jump in when you're an adult and give you gifts and praise. But your bio parents weren't there when you were sick, pooping in diapers, having nightmares, needing help with homework. People focus way too much on blood over family. You're the a-hole. My adoptive parents always complain that I don't want to spend any time with them. I think that they got 23 years with me. Yeah. They spent 23 years with you making sure you had a roof over your head, making sure you had clothes on your back, making sure you had food in your stomach, making sure you had warm hugs and support when you needed it. Barring some serious neglect and abuse, try and remember that they were the ones that spent the last 23 years or more sacrificing to make sure you were well cared for. They put in the work to raise you and help you become the man you are today. Maybe they did mess up and didn't get everything right. Maybe they genuinely did treat your siblings different, but my guess is they didn't mean to, based on their belief that it was equal. Parenting is hard, and while yes, it's the parents' responsibility to take on that hardship and do their best not to make mistakes, mistakes will happen. It doesn't sound like any of those mistakes were blatantly harmful or damaging enough to take away from all the things they got, right? Or surely you would have stated that. I don't think there's anything wrong with you getting to know your bio family, but don't forget to put in all the time, work, and sacrifice as your actual parents. You're the a-hole, unless there are major context points missing. Now for the update. I don't even know what is going on here. I posted on another sub yesterday and I was deemed as huge ungrateful spoiled brat. Maybe I am. So while planning the wedding with my fiancé, I, 27 male, decided that my bio family will sit by my side. I made contact 4 years ago and our relationship built up really fast. For all my life, I didn't feel fully accepted by my adoptive family. My feelings were always dismissed as unreasonable. My parents always claimed they loved us all equal, but I just felt the difference. It's hard to explain. I did went to therapy because I shut down and went cold when I was 12. It helped a little and I opened up and voiced my feelings. They were never accepted as valid. All that changed when I met my bio family. I felt fully accepted, or so I thought. After I told my adoptive family that my bio family will sit by my side, they had a meltdown. And in the heat of moment, I disinvited them from the wedding. I know that was wrong and feel terrible. It's almost a week from the incident and we still don't talk, and it's killing me. Yesterday, after being blasted in another sub, I decided I will test the waters with my bio family. Today I went to their place. While discussing the wedding, I told them that they will sit close to me but my adoptive family will be by my side. Everything went quiet for a moment. And then my bio mother told me that they kinda hoped they will get that place. They think that our relationship progressed very well, and they thought I came around and see that they are my real family. Plus, they are paying for the wedding. My heart dropped. They never expressed this to me before, and I told them that I already have a real family, and that will never change. We can be very close, but I will always have one mom and dad. I still call my bio parents by their name. I saw that bio mother was on the verge of tears. My bio father then asked me to leave and that they don't feel comfortable paying for the wedding anymore. I am devastated. I don't know what is going on. It took one wedding and I lost both my families. I still have my fiancé, but this is the ultimate rejection. I don't even know how to recover from this. My fiancé told me she always thought that something was off with my bio family, but she never voiced her opinion. I want to reconcile with my adoptive family, but they probably see like they are a second option now. I don't know how to start. Go to their place? Message them first? I don't know what to say. Will they even respond? I'm such an idiot, and I feel like I will be all alone at my wedding now. Time to pay for your own wedding so nobody other than you can have a say in what your wedding looks like. I also can't imagine they'd be civil with each other anyways. Yes, it was dumb casting your adoptive parents aside for people who haven't been in your life for the majority of it. Time to profusely apologize, make up your mind and figure out a civilized decision. If I was you, I'd just make 2 separate dinners as a celebration with both sets of parents, cause this will only blow up more. I read your original post in AITA, and you left out that your bio family was paying for your wedding. You still come off poorly. Your original post came off that at 18 you blew off your adoptive family to replace them with your bio family and rubbed their noses in it. Then were shocked by their hurt. Now you want to rekindle that and downgrade your bio family and are shocked they're hurt? You tried to play both sides here and got rightfully burned. My advice is to take time to reflect on what kind of relationship you want here, and what your part is and how those relationships are, not just what you get out of them. Am I the a-hole for calling my dad out for saying mom would have loved his wife / would have been happy for them as a couple? My mom died when I was 16 male. 3 years later, dad started dating the one woman my mom hated most in the world. They had a beef going on since childhood, and then when they worked together, it continued. Mom used to say how much she hated her, how she'd be glad when she no longer have to have her in her life. She said she was the worst person ever. It used to be a joke with my dad and mom's family that mom would hunt her if mom was the first of the 2 of them to die. Everyone knew the feeling was mutual between them though. So much that people they worked with did everything so they never had to work together. And their boss almost fired my dad's current wife back in the day for her unprofessional behavior. Dad fell in love with her though, and ever since has been determined to paint a different picture. It turned my mom's family against him, who hated him for his choice of partner after mom. They said if he expects to reunite with mom and dad, then he has another thing coming, because she would never forgive him for choosing her, his current wife. His choice of wife bothers me too, as well as how he talks about her and my mom. He has talked endlessly about how mom would have loved his wife, or how happy she would be for them. Once, he even said she sent his wife to us when I have kids. They can have a grandma. My fiancé and I were having dinner with my dad and her parents. Dad's wife was there too. Dad started off on his BS about this, and I called him out and reminded him that mom hated her, and that the feeling was very much mutual while she was alive, that he had a right to move on, but to stop painting a pretty picture. He told me that I had done that to hurt him and that he didn't need my judgment. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your dad is attempting to gaslight everyone around him so he doesn't have to feel bad about his choice and partner. The other side of the situation is, he doesn't have to feel bad. He waited an appropriate amount of time after the loss of his first wife and then found love. It doesn't really matter who with. He does not require late a wife's approval or your approval. He's an adult, you're an adult, and he has every right to be happy. Right, be with who you want to be, but stop spinning BS yarn about destiny. Or that your late partner sent you to one person they absolutely despised so you can be happy again. If I was Opie's wife, I would be resurrecting myself instantaneously to come after them. LMAO. Like, fine, if you fell in love, whatever, but don't be telling lies about me because I'm not there to defend myself. Not the a-hole. He can marry who he wants, but he doesn't get to 1. Fabricate the past, 2. Demand you play along, and 3. Not face the consequences of lying so blatantly to the point he's seriously repulsing people. I'd respect him more if he had acknowledged the true history between the two women, admitted he liked his new wife despite this, and stopped trying this frankly Orwellian crap. Frankly, I'd go very low contact with the man, because he's going to try to brainwash any future kids with his fantasy Lala version. Seriously, I'm petty, but I would have asked him, how does it feel to know your wife married you to get revenge on a dead woman? I also wouldn't want him near my kids, so his outlandish suggestion that she would be their grandparents would definitely send me to low contact territory. It's not judgment, Dad. It's a fact. I'm happy you're happy, but stop trying to make it something it's not. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Basically came here to say this. It's great he's happy again, but that doesn't negate the other factors in the situation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for intentionally drinking at family events so I'm not forced to babysit? I, 30 male, I'm the only one of my siblings without children. This is a personal choice for many reasons I won't get into. My parents live with my sister who is 9 years older. It has 2 kids I see often. However, my brother, 2 years older, has a young girl and 2 little boys. All 3 are likely on the spectrum, but my brother and his wife refuse to check through a doctor. They're also homeschooled in a very rural area, and I don't get to see my brother and his family very often. Maybe once a year. Every time I do spend time with my brother and his family, it never fails that he finds a way to dump his 3 kids on me, who may have special needs, the second he can, so him and his wife can disappear from the kids' area. I really only see my brother's family during large family events. The kids usually have their own separate area to play and eat, away from the adults smoking cigarettes and drinking, etc., so they can socialize and let loose, so to speak. My brother's 3 kids don't leave the house very much, almost never, as they live on a big farm. So when they go to these kinds of events, they are over the top excited and harder to manage. And one is nonverbal but constantly walks around looking to play with literally deadly things. So needless to say, I'm not qualified or even capable to watch my brother's 3 kids by myself as well as what they need. Plus, their cousins, my sister's kids, also want to spend time with their cousins. So I'm sitting there by myself watching 5 kids aged 4 to 8 by myself. 3 of which may have special needs. One is a freaking monster. And because I'm the cool uncle, I gave them a Nintendo Switch for my own peace of mind. My brother assumes every time that I'll just watch his kids. It's gotten so blatant on my brother's end that lately at family events, my brother will give me a physical paper list of parental duties, a backpack with stuff for the kids, then turn his phone off in front of me, then walk away after dumping his kids on me. I go to these family events to spend time with my whole family, not to be an isolated babysitter. I love my nieces and nephews, but this is one of the reasons I didn't have children in my 20s. Family events are just as important to me as other parents there, and they can manage to watch their own kids. But my brother always finds a way to ditch me with his kids. Then ultimately my sister's kids join in too. I don't go to these family events to be a babysitter, so I've just started drinking a bit before I show up and drink a little bit consistently enough to safely say I shouldn't have 5 small children in my care. Since these times are really the only times my brother sees me, he thinks I'm a drunk and spreading rumors as such. Not at all, but laugh at your solution instead of just confronting them. You can do whatever you want at family parties because you don't have kids. I would maybe tell him that you're not available to babysit at parties and he should plan accordingly. I've definitely talked to them. Lol, they act like martyrs because they procreated. I hate people like that. Like, just because you brought these kids into this world doesn't mean you have any extra privileges. Go take care of your spawn. Parents always seem to forget all the rewards of being a parent has the second they're slightly inconvenienced. Not the a-hole. This is just your brother using you without any thought to you as a person. Get your drink on. Your other family members that actually care will ask you if you're an alcoholic. You can be honest with them. The ones that just accept the rumors, well, that tells you their opinion of you. I have one aunt who tells me I should join AA, but she only has the nerve to tell me that while she's also been drinking. Haha. Not stay home. But that's probably not the best way to deal with this. Drinking and allowing others to assume you're a drunk is ridiculous. Get into conversations and then say you can't simply leave the chat and look after the kids. Or start cooking something so that you can't abandon the stove or the pan for too long. Honestly, there's no point being honest in these situations because they will probably only get selfishly offended. But perhaps you don't want to be drunk every time you meet your family. Trust me, this was far from my first solution. I even tried bringing friends, and my brother still finds a way to corner me. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for screaming at my husband and daughter because I didn't clean the house? So I, 37 female, have a husband, 38 male, and a daughter, Ellie, 17 female. I won't specify exactly what my job is because it's not relevant to this situation. But long story short, I was offered some extra training from my workplace in order to gain higher qualifications and therefore go onto a higher paid ranking in the business. This training was a week long, which isn't much. However, it was about 6 hours drive from where I live, which meant I had to book a hotel and stay there for a week. I asked my husband if he could look after Ellie for the week. He agreed happily, and that was that. Now, I'm not exactly a perfectionist, and our house is by no means pristine. However, I do like to make sure it is clean and keep it at least somewhat tidy and presentable. I clean surfaces, toilets, floors, etc. regularly. However, there can be a little mess about a place, which is not unusual. Walking through the front door to my house after that training week absolutely horrified me. We have 2 cats and they are litter trained. The litter was full with cat poo and it stank the house out. Neither my husband nor my daughter, both able-bodied people, had bothered to take care of the cat litter. There were dirty dishes piling up everywhere in the kitchen and they smelled bad too. There were muddy footprints on the carpet, food smushed onto the sofa. The house was just a complete mess. After a week of work training for 15 hours each day, I did not have it in me to get angry in that moment. I just sat on the filthy sofa and cried. Then my daughter and husband came down the stairs, complaining that I hadn't immediately started washing the dishes as soon as I came through the door, so they could make food and drink. At this point, I was really started to see red. What made me lose my temper completely was when my husband said I was ungrateful for him giving up his time to look after Ellie all day. I lost it. I screamed at my husband saying that he has no right to expect me to be grateful when he left the house that I paid for in such a disgusting state. I then said that Ellie's a 17-year-old girl who can look after herself for the majority of the time, which meant he was completely over-exaggerating the extent of how much time he gave up. I then said to both of them that if they are going to treat me like this, they can just leave and go somewhere else and live like tramps elsewhere. My husband took Ellie and left. I don't know where they are now. My guess is that they went to my husband's parents' house. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You need to take a video of the house before they come home. Get evidence as to what state the house is in. I honestly would pack my items back up. Get a hotel for 2 more nights and tell them that if the house isn't to at least the standard it was in which you left, consequences would follow, especially to your husband. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry that your family is such a jerk to you. P.S. Your poor cats. Your husband and daughter care so little for your pets that they forced them to go outside the box? This is incredibly stressful and cruel. Please make sure you remember this detail especially. They walked past these animals every day and didn't care that they were hurting them. And send the video to anyone who yells at you after believing your husband's lies. Not stay home. You weren't even there. How would it be your responsibility to clean up the mess they made? And your husband is not doing you a special favor by looking after his own daughter. He is a parent. That is what parents do. Even if she were little and required a lot of his time and attention, he would not have given up time to help you out. He would have been simply a father. They take you for granted for all the cleaning you do, obviously. I would not want them to come home until you've all talked this through, and they understand why they behaved like ungrateful a-holes. And also, they need to clean the house. Maybe you should go to a hotel till they have cleaned the place up, actually. A few people have suggested me going to a hotel and waiting for them to clean up. I completely agree, and I wish I had thought of that in the moment. However, I was so angry I wasn't really thinking properly. I still might do it though, if that's what it takes. OP, you absolutely should. That is awful how your daughter and husband treated you and let the house get. He wasn't babysitting. She isn't 1, she's 17. They should be able to empty litter boxes and wash dishes. It isn't like they had to deep clean, just not make a mess for a week. That isn't hard. Let this be a huge wake-up call to you. You haven't let them get away with you doing everything. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling a fellow mother of a special needs child that my daughter is not responsible for her child? I have 2 children who we'll call Maria, 14 female, and David, 7 male. David is on the autism spectrum. He is non-vocal and requires a fair bit of specialized care. Since his birth, Maria has had to take on a partial caring role for David for a variety of reasons. I make sure that this is not to an extent where she is taking care of him, however. Just enough so that she can help out while not losing out on her own life and experiences as a child. Unfortunately, this does not always work out as intended, and sometimes Maria does have to step up when I and my husband fail. But I always make sure to make it up to her and reward her for the time she helps us out like I would a normally paid caretaker. This summer, I enrolled Maria in a summer art program. She had been looking forward to it for months and was ecstatic on the first day. This enthusiasm quickly turned sour, and she stopped wanting to go after only the first 2 weeks. This was because Maria was essentially assigned to watch over a girl we'll call Helen. Helen is a girl who is also on the autism spectrum. I know Helen's mother personally, and when she learned that her daughter and mine were going to be in the same art classes over the summer, she asked the organizers personally to essentially assign Maria to be Helen's mandatory friend over the summer. Over the first 2 weeks, Maria was essentially burdened with Helen. She spent a good chunk of the class time helping Helen out with her own projects, instead of being able to work on her own. She also at one point had to help one of the teachers out when Helen began to have an anxiety attack and did not get to do any art the entire day. When I learned of this, I was livid. I contacted the organizers of the art program and went off, demanding my money back and threatening to report them for having a student, and a minor of that, responsible for the care of a special needs child. They let it slip to me that Helen's mother told them that I and her were close friends, which is not the case. I called Helen's mother up as well and went off, demanding to know where she got the nerve to ruin my child's own experience and treat her like a caretaker for her own child. She claimed that Ellen wanted to do the art program, but she was afraid that she would not be able to do it alone. That Maria had experience with special needs children and that she felt safe with her being next to Helen's side. She then yelled at me, called me a heartless a-hole, and said that I should know where she was coming from. I got my money back Monday and I'm looking into private art tutoring options for Maria. When my husband learned what happened, he lost it. Said that I should be understanding of Helen's mother considering our own situation. So now I'm second-guessing myself. Edit, just a quick clarification. My husband is not mad at me for pulling Maria from the class or being mad about her being used as a caretaker. He agrees that was wrong and is not happy about it. What he got mad about was me calling Helen's mom and confronting her. His point of being understanding to her was not about Maria being a caretaker for Helen. It was about Helen's mom asking in the first place. He does not agree with the way the class handled it at all, and he supports me in taking this issue all the way to the top. What he is mad about is dropping Helen's mom in and fighting with her personally. So, for the question at hand, involving Helen, not the a-hole. You're right, your daughter shouldn't have to look after someone if she doesn't want to. But on that note, Maria does have to step up when I and my husband fail. Do better. Because I guarantee the biggest reason she's disappointed she couldn't do the art program is that she needed a break from parenting her brother and didn't get one. I get that you compensate her, but time is a finite resource she isn't going to get back. You're the a-hole. This reason alone is why I think Opie's the a-hole. Your 14-year-old child is not there to pick up the slack for your failed parenting. I highly doubt they're paying her as much as a trained caregiver would make to compensate for the 14-year-old's time. A reward is not hourly pay for caring for someone. I'm glad Opie stuck up for her child, but she's still an a-hole. Stop being cheap and hire a daycare service or caregiver to let your child have a childhood again. I don't think this is fair. It feels like Opie's daughter steps in possibly no more than any older sibling with a non-special needs younger sibling. People often ask their older children to help out without it being abuse.